Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining in today. We are really excited about this discussion, which is based on our work around inclusive policies. So, over 15 years ago or so, D&I efforts in many forward looking organizations moved from creating workplace harassment free workplaces and providing safe transport, perhaps to women, toward being more focused on all dimensions of diversity, whether it is being inclusive and welcoming of persons with disabilities or people from the LGBTQI communities, in addition to, of course, being inclusive of women in every way. So, with diverse employees came the need to provide for their diverse um, needs. And therefore, we saw a lot of programs which were centered around, developing women, probably making the workplace more accessible for persons with disability, and sensitization of managers and employees towards the LGBTQI plus community members. The need for policy and systemic changes to create an inclusive workplace for everyone really has been felt only for the past few years. The pandemic, of course, accelerated many of these changes, and we at Parity saw these shifts as they happened, and we wanted to understand how companies were redesigning their policies to create an increasingly inclusive workplace. The policy designer had to focus on attracting talent and also had to ensure that diverse employees could be supported for all their needs through especially the gargantuan crisis that all of us went through in the last 2 years. So we were particularly interested in understanding leave policies because, along with the flexible work options, I think leave policies were most impacted in the last 2 years. So we invited organizations to share with us some of their best practices, especially around how they shaped their leave policies to be more inclusive during the last few months. And their deep commitment to inclusion has sort of led them to keep the employee front and center as they redesigned their leave policies. We thank all the organizations that provided inputs to this. And we've created this compendium of best practices in inclusive leave policies. The compendium also draws from the knowledge base that we've created through our work with our clients, and also secondary research. So I can confidently say that it's a rich and a detailed source of information for any company that wants to relook at their leave policies. As you will hear from our panelists today, we will have to relook at many of our policies. And, leave policies and others have received tremendous attention and a lot of overhaul in these past 2 years. So, more on that during our discussion. Of the 10 organizations that we spoke to, four that are featured in the compendium are Flipkart, Ford, Micron, and Wipro. We are honored to have leaders, senior benefits leaders, HR leaders from these organizations, except for Flipkart, and they couldn't be here today. We also have Achyuta Ghosh, who's Senior Director and Head of Insights at NASSCOM. So, in the pre pandemic world, we would have probably been sitting face to face, and I would have invited all of you to hold up the compendium and mark the release of the document. But today we have a digital version of the compendium. We don't really plan to print it, and therefore we've created a digital, sort of a video to mark the release. So I would like to invite Achyut from NASSCOM, Pooja Bora from Wipro, Robert Leo from Ford, and Sharmila Khan from Micron as we release the compendium with an animated version of unraveling the cover of the compendium. So Tarundeep, my colleague, will help us to do that. Tarun, handing over to you. Thank you. Thank you, Tarundeep. And over to Achyut now for moderating the discussion. Hope everybody has great takeaways from it. Achyut, over to you.
Thank you, Jyothsna. And thank you, Tarun, for the short and sweet launch. Absolutely thrilled to be here today and participating in such an important discussion. Companies in India have started adopting a variety of work models, and a lot of our research shows that most employees and organizations seems to be comfortable with the hybrid work model, which is basically a mix of remote and on-site. These new work models also pose interesting questions to organizations around talent strategy, around organization culture fitment, employee engagement, workforce integration, productivity KPIs, etc., leading to some holistic policy level changes. Given the backdrop of COVID, attracting and retaining talent and ensuring a diverse workforce, which in turn is a proven catalyst for innovation within organizations, has driven a redesign of leave policies, among others. And that's what we would want to explore in this discussion today. So, without any delay, let's get into the thick of things. It's my pleasure to invite Pooja Bora, from Senior Manager, Head of India Benefits and Global R&R at Wipro, Robert Leo, Senior Employee Relation Leader at Ford Automotive and GIC Businesses, Sharmila Khan, Director, Country HRBP for India at Micron, and of course, Jyothsna, Senior Consultant at Parity. Um, so, welcome all of you. For my first question is posed to all of you, all the speakers out here. We are hoping that this is the beginning of the end. Are there any changes that you are making post pandemic to your leave policy that are here to stay? And what are some of the lessons that you have taken away with regards to leave policies from the huge shifts brought during the pandemic? I mean, are there any permanent changes that you are looking at? Or are there temporary, changes that you have seen in the last couple of years? Over to all of you again. Would you like to go around the table?
Yeah, maybe I could go. Ajay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Parity, for orchestrating this session. I think it's a very important topic. And you rightly said, Achyut, I think the every organization is kind of going through the process of identifying what model would work for which roles. For some roles, working on the site might be much more meritorious, but some roles probably can work on a hybrid model. Some roles can be completely 100% remote. So I think we are experiencing something very unprecedented, and this will have its cascading effect on many other aspects of HR operations, policies, programs, and leave is one of them. And I cannot claim that as a company we have identified areas where we will make the changes, but we have started to discuss, and we are looking at some of these forums and this compendium as one of the source of information to educate ourselves. What are the other companies are looking to do? Right now, if you look at pre-pandemic, we had a handful of leave options that were available to the employee to make good use of. But now with the hybrid model, some of those leave system will become irrelevant. And while we cannot get away with some of the statute-related leave policies, but some of the additional leaves probably will have to be a little bit more open, will also have to encompass many other aspects of our operations. So I'm looking to have interesting conversation amongst all of us to see where we should be head towards, what type of changes we should have, or we may not be able to make a single change right away. We probably will have to evolve. It will have to evolve over the course of time as we learn through our experiences what employees are looking to have, what are the conditions that would work, and what type of policies we need to encompass is something that has to be an evolving conversation.
Thanks, Sharmila. Pooja, Robert, would you like to come
Yeah.
in?
So I'd probably, like to bring a perspective on, like when the year so big. So basically, in the beginning of the pandemic, right? I mean, when we kind of suddenly started working from home, so this was a huge shift, that people had faced. So the constant feedback that we heard after people, started working from home is that that maybe working from home is more stressful, and basically the line between work and home is kind of getting blurred, and the result of which people are not taking up leaves. So in that particular scenario, what we had done was that we had created certain nudges, right, which kind of encourage people to take up leaves. I mean, we went ahead and said, we kind of went ahead and said that please do take up your leave, at least twice a quarter. You please take up your leave, take this particular time off to take care of your health, as in to take care of your family. So this was one particular thing. I think from with the coming of the pandemic, the whole shift, like Shamila was talking about, right? The whole, working from home, and now, hybrid working. We definitely have to relook at the way, we are designing the leave, and also, how we are communicating these leaves. Apart from that, most of the like most of the companies have, kind of brought about COVID leave, bereavement leave. We have also done so. We have also kind of changed the way leaves get utilized. Like probably, as in basically, we have this, some particular calendar year, post which the leaves get lapsed. So with the pandemic, we are realizing that people may, like people maybe are not able to utilize this leave in a particular year. So is it okay to kind of extend that, time to some, few more months as well? So these are few, proactive changes that we have recognized in the past 2 years, with the onset of the pandemic. And I think these particular changes are here to stay, right? That's what, our take has been on the whole leave policy.
Yeah,
Robert?
maybe just to add from a Ford point of view. So, as all of us undergoing or realizing that the pandemic has accelerated a lot of changes. Even prior to pandemic, we were talking about flexibility, but during the pandemic, we realized in practice that so much flexibility can be accommodated or can be practiced in workplace. So everybody's needs are different. So this is what we are seeing, because one point the casual leave concept was there, and today after the pandemic, there is no point of casual leave concept. So people are able to manage their day-to-day activities while they are having the flexibility to work from office or from home. So that is brought a big change in the way we looked at the leave policies. So we started giving more flexibility and accommodating each individual's needs and interests. So from this January onwards, we made several changes in the leave policy, uh, mainly centered around flexibility. So if you have to use certain existing policies which are legally constrained, but what we did was internally made our conditions or rules around that, made it more flexible so that people can use their available leave for whatever needs they have in their life. So one of the thing we introduced was leave for moments that matter. So each one will give different priority for their moments in their life. Maybe a childbirth, or maybe a marriage or any other occasion. People will have varied interests, and they want to spend time with their near and dear. So we made our policies are more accommodative, flexible, so that people can use their available leave for their needs accordingly. Second is about we introduce the concept of wellness break. So this is not a new leave, but it is a concept where as Pooja and Sharmila mentioned, this pandemic had increased the stress level to the individual because they are not able to stop working and taking break. We realized that one is important, that emphasizing the need for wellness. So we introduce a concept where people can take leave for their wellness needs. And the last one I just wanted to touch upon is again on more on flexibility. This is on scheduled holidays. We introduce a concept of scheduled holiday where smaller teams can plan their work accordingly and take break for the team. Now, for example, year-end season is lean for many of the operations. So the skill team leader or the business leader can decide what all the teams can take a break during that time. Some people, Diwali is a celebration, Holi is a celebration. So those teams, they can accommodate adjust their work based on the demand, and then take a team level break So this is flexible for the skill team based on the workload. So these are the changes we recently introduced in January, and it is getting into practice with their employees. So we see a lot of acceptance because we give a lot of flexibility for people, so that they can spend their time as they wish. At the same time, complete the deliverables on time as they wish.
Thank you, Robert.
We,
And I think, Jyothsna, should we answer all the questions towards the end of the session, or should we take it right now?
we could pause a couple of times, maybe, if
Okay.
not.
Okay, so there's an interesting one over here, right? I mean, all these leave policies that we are introducing, how do you really measure if these policies are giving some results? I mean, is it resulting in less attrition? Is it giving better client satisfaction, right? I mean, is there some way to address it? It's, maybe Shamira, you want to take it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So firstly, we before we get into this, is policies having some measurable impressions on attrition? And I think they are two independent. They're mutually exclusive. And the way I see it is flexible work arrangement and leave are there two independent things, right? They need not be clubbed together. For purpose of discussion, I think it's important that we decouple them. I think the topic that we are looking to and the thoughts that are alluding towards is how should the policies, leave policies, be designed to suit the requirement of a flexible work arrangement? I think that's something that we all need to be looking at. Leave policies may not have a direct impact on your attrition, but it will definitely have impact on the culture that you're driving the organization. If you look at what our millennials or what employees are looking to have is having a choice of deciding from where I want to work and when I want to work. I think that's the flexibility team members are looking to have. Leave is a hygiene, all right? So we may have over the course of time, some of us will probably be discussing in our respective organization or the statute, the way it is described, right? You have CLs, you have sick leave, you have a privileged leave, and we design our leave policies in order to accommodate some of those nuances, plus some of the additional leaves that we offer. They will probably have to be revisited and looked at it with a fresh pair of eyes because now people are choosing variety of options of working and associating with the organization. So very difficult. There is no straight answer to the question. Will it have a direct correlation with attrition? It may not have a direct correlation with attrition, but it may have to some extent if I'm comfortable with the way I'm able to manage my work and my life. And this company is providing me that environment, I'm likely to stay with the company for a longer period because it's meeting that requirement. So it has got to do more with the work arrangement the company is offering, not just limited to leave. I would sort of say that.
Can I just add here, Achu?
Sure.
Yeah. So I want to say that as a metric, right? I think attrition, like Shamila rightly pointed out. I may not be the right metric to kind of look at whether everything that we're doing in the light of whether it is being kind of changes in leave policies or other practices in the light of pandemic. But employee experience is something that can be rightly measured, and we have seen that in our this year's annual employee experience survey, the scores in belongingness have definitely gone up, and that is, I think, the primary reason for that is because of the number of employee centric work and the employee support that we have been giving people throughout this whole COVID waves. I think that really plays a lot of that it plays a big part in the whole the scores being up, and people thinking that yes, our company do care about us. I think that is the right metric to kind of be looking at.
I think that's a great point, Pooja, and I think if we have to count any silver linings from COVID, I think this is it, right? We often talked about customer centricity, but the pandemic has brought employee centricity to the fore, to the center for all organizations, and I think that's the way going forward. But Shamila, you were talking about you did talk about your experiences. Just to build upon that, do tell us the Micron story, right? You've got a lot of workplaces at Micron. So can you just tell us how you've successfully managed to straddle the varied workplaces you have with respect to leave policies at Micron? Let's hear
Yeah,
Micron's story.
sure. Yeah, sure. So happy to share some of that, Achyut. So especially for India, from a Micron India point of view, our operations is relatively new as compared to the other organizations. We are just about 3 years in India, but we are actually a 30-year-old company. So we had the advantage of adopting all the best practices in our ecosystem, right? Because we are setting up operations right from the beginning. So we introduced all the lead types that one can imagine, and which were very relevant before the COVID period, right? So, but if I look at now, and I think somebody was also asking, do you even track the adoption of these leaves, etc.? We don't consciously track, but we do look at how all of these benefits are utilized. There is always a need to do more. You want to kind of introduce as many benefits as possible, but it's very, very necessary for us to look at, are even employees utilizing them enough? If they're not utilizing them enough, which means this policy is either not working well, or they're looking for something more. You're offering something, but the employee is looking for something else, right? So there is a little bit of a disconnect. So when we started, we introduced, which are hygiene, all the benefits that are hygiene, of course, all the leaves that are hygiene. But we introduced adoption leave for mother and father, made sure they are segregated. It's not like standardized, but as a parent, if you're doing an adoption, you could potentially take some time off. We have also given some time off during the pandemic period, a wellness day of celebrating your career anniversaries. Some of those new leave types got introduced. We created an opportunity for team members to celebrate their birthdays, because we realized that during this pandemic year, nobody was taking leave. Maybe people are taking leave, but they're not applying leave. So we don't know whether people are actually utilizing the leave or not, because everybody is remote, right? So hence, if I just look at the data alone, naturally the utilization will be probably in single digit, right? But it's possible people are addressing their personal issues. Then we also introduced COVID leave of 28 days, so which took care of most part of the pandemic situation. So there was no necessary for us to be able to have utilization of any of the leave type. So I think an interesting debate, before we start introducing many more leave type, I think it's important to look at what's the construct of the organization and what our team members are looking to have. Maybe it's a good idea to create, bouquet of opportunities, and within that, team members can essentially take whatever leave type, whatever situations they want to arrest under those number of leaves. They should be able to essentially arrest that. Because if in our imagination, I think it'd be very difficult to get prescriptive. Needs will be unique, needs are changing. So our response to the new needs should change.
No, I agree. I think it's completely dependent on the workforce age, their need, their wants, location. All these are factors there. But Shamina, how do you come up with the categories? I mean, do you get feedback from the employees? Do you look at other companies what they're doing? What's the modus operandi here?
Yeah, so we do look at best practices, Achyut. We look at best practices from other organizations. In fact, last year we leveraged our one of our partners, Zinov, that we partner with. We looked at what are the R&D companies are offering or looking to have in this new environment, and not just for the experienced hire, but also for the campus graduates, right? And so some of these, we did 3 times market dipstick survey in order to validate what we are offering is actually serving the purpose, and am I competitive vis-a-vis the market? Are we listening to our team members? We of course are responding to our team members' response. I mean, Pooja talked about employee opinion survey is one of the ways, but we also have many other measures to seek the opinion from the employees. In fact, we changed our flexible work arrangement based on the employee feedback. We had few situations and few considerations in our version 1 last year, but now we are rolling out flexible work arrangement, revised it based on the feedback that we have received across Micron, not just limited to Micron India feedback, but across Micron globally.
Thanks. Then my next question is for Parity. Around parental leave, Jyothsna, in a highly competitive market, job market, many firms are offering leave to all employees to take care of their newborn, bond with them, be a equal partner when childcare is concerned. What are your findings in this area? What are your recommendations going forward in this topic when it comes to parental leave?
Sure. So, first of all, in India, the 6 months of maternity leave and the various amounts for different kinds of childbirth, I think India has a fairly generous maternity leave mandate among the developing countries. And it's actually also better than the US, which is, of course, one of the first world countries. Secondly, what we found as we spoke to multiple organizations is that the philosophy and the guiding principles that inclusive companies adhere to. The three that we have also elucidated on in the compendium is keeping the employee front and center, like Sharmila spoke about and Pooja also alluded to. Using the organization values to guide policy design and applying the policy of inclusion and non-discrimination. So these require that companies recognize that the culture is changing around parenting and to adapt to the requirements of the generations that are actually steeped in this culture is really important. So, for example, many men today not only want to share the chores of childcare, but they actually enjoy, they revel in parenting as such. And they also celebrate the successes of their partners and are aware that through equal participation in the family, their partners will grow in their professions as well. So, companies have definitely started to recognize this and have made parental leave much more inclusive. So many have introduced paternity leave as a start and various number of days. Many have, enhanced maternity leave. They have, like our participating companies also. So the next steps in enhancing, which again is quite common in some European countries, but a lot of Indian companies also have started doing it, is as a first step to recognize that parents have an equal responsibility in childcare. So, at its best, I would say that parental leave policy would look like this. It would be inclusive of all manner of families, whether it's a heterosexual couple, same gender couple, or even single parents. And this is already there in many companies that we spoke to. What they have said is that the uptake may not be very high because of various cultural constraints, maybe some legal constraints also in terms of adoption and all that. And the second one would be to be inclusive, irrespective of the nature of childbirth, natural, adopted, surrogate, so on. So these again are supported by state mandate and by law, by various amounts of leave. But again, very inclusive companies that are forward looking have provided the same quantum of leave, no matter the nature of childbirth. And in India, a few companies stand out, and I'm just going to name a few actually that have come up in the last 1 or 2 years. Fidelity, Diageo, Misho, they have all started, giving a certain amount of leave, irrespective of the employee being a man or a woman, or whether they are part of a heterosexual couple or a same-sex couple, and they don't therefore classify the employee as a primary caregiver or a secondary caregiver, which some companies ask for. So we should be seeing more and more companies, doing this in the future. And of course, all this will have to be, no doubt, supported by ongoing options for childcare. So a child needs a parent not just for the first few months of the first year, right? They would need a parent, throughout until a certain age. So again, going after the idealistic options that seem to be there in the EU, they offer several days off to parents who have to several days off per year to take care of children less than 12 years old or to take care of a child with special needs maybe. um, And then, things like on-site or near-site childcare options like creche or subsidies for childcare options. Then, of course, like Sharmila just mentioned, moving or to say hybrid workplace is already here, and maybe leave will not be as important as time off for childcare, whether it is for a few hours or no meeting time zones, no device holidays. These are the kinds of things that will probably make sense going forward. And then, of course, all this will be applicable not just to employees who have childcare responsibilities, but also who may not have childcare responsibilities. So it'll be all encompassing and more inclusive. That's what we're seeing.
Thanks, Jyothsna. Would the speakers want to comment on this? Robert, Pooja, Shamida, anything from your side on
Yeah,
parental leaves?
yeah. Yeah, sure, thanks. Yeah, if I may comment, I mean, Jyothsna, you brought in a very good point of having to have a lot of inclusivity. If you look at in the entire last year and a half, 2 years, I'm seeing DI is also becoming very integral when you're deciding your leave type. Earlier it was a statute related, then we became, a little bit more generous with the maternity leave and the paternity leave got introduced. But we actually introduced, leave type for somebody who's making a conscious choice for gender transformation, right? So there is a specific leave type for that. There is a benefit associated with that if somebody is making that, change in their sexual orientation. So some of these leaves also got introduced during these entire, last 2 years, and I'm seeing DI is looked at with a completely different lens. It has widened its scope as it should be. We are now talking about every aspect of the, diversity and not limiting our imagination and limiting our offers only from the gender lens. So that's something I thought I'll call it out. And you rightly said, a lot many leaves are becoming far more expanded, more inclusive, and it suits the specific situation and environment. And one of the leaves that we introduced, the elderly care. Not necessarily just the children, but you could be, nursing your elderly parents, your elderly in-laws. So we introduced that leave type as well. I think about last to last year, elderly care was one of the leave types.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
just now one of the
So
things
yeah.
that yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
All right. So one
Okay.
of the things that we are mentioning, right, Jyothsna, that about equal parenting. So I think it's very important that earlier the whole concept of being, basically the double income, no kids generation, who are now opting to become, new parents. For them, I think equal parenting is a very, very important and a very possessive kind of a concept, right? So basically, this generation, like I strongly believes in that. So having a parental leave, which kind of doesn't differentiate between mothers and fathers and kind of gives equal leaves to all the genders, I think is a very important and a very forward looking point of view as of now. And like one of the things that that we have done in our company is basically the extended maternity leave is what some companies call it. So basically we also had it. So now we are kind of saying that it is not going to be called extended maternity leave, but it is going to be called as parental leave. And this particular leave is I mean basically can be availed by all the genders within the first 1 year of childbirth. So that I think is quite empowering to the new couples, to basically couples who are who fall in this generation and believe in the concept of equal parenting.
Yeah. Yeah. Agree to
Thanks.
that.
Thanks,
Even
Pooja. Go ahead, Robert.
yeah, when you talk about parental leave, there are two things we realize. Paternity leave is the most used leave, next is equivalent to marriage, so it's 100% people use that. As Jyothsna mentioned, it's trend is increasing that employees want to support their partners, and also they want to enjoy the happy moment of a newborn. So there is a pride in taking care of that newborn, and also support their partners. So one is that. Second is that when the organization matures, you also have people wanting to take care of their parents. So not only kids, it's also the reverse side. Employees taking care of their parents. So this need was though it was there in the system, but there is a emphasis we have given, and in Ford we've recently opened up and made it flexible for employees. If they need time to take care of their parents, there are several options we have given. So either it could be a leave, or it could be a long leave, or it could be an unpaid leave, something like that. So allowing employees more flexibility, what we realize is as an environment we create where employee bring their whole self to the office. So that is what all employer wants to be in the workplace. Employee coming with their whole self, it makes a whole lot of difference in the workplace, and they come with more engagement. So that automatically drives the performance and quality in the organization. So that I think we realize, and we continuously make adjustments in the leave policy. So this is one of the things always I get to a lot of input from employees and from the management. Always sometimes I used to be challenged by external inputs and benchmarks. So this is one of the area where we make employee help them bring their whole self. That's what I would say, or I would believe in creating a better workplace. Is leave is the one of the major factor.
Thank you, Robert and Sharmila and Pooja. For we have a few questions from the audience, interesting ones. One is from Kanika Jain, and she's asking, how do you bring consensus on the leave policy that you would like to introduce in the company? I think we touched upon it, Sharmila, when we discussed about how do you agree
Yeah.
on what leave policy to do. But is there a method to this madness, or is this completely driven by what you see all around you?
Yeah, yeah,
Anyone
sure.
can
So no,
can,
it's a
can jump in.
yeah, yeah. Maybe I'll
If
just add on and just sorry, Robert.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So menstrual leave is one of the way of accommodating their some individuals need. That's what I would say. So what we have done is we made it open for employees where they can use their available leave for various purposes, including menstrual requirements. So we also realized creating more and more segments and categories of leave is also constraining employees. One section may use, but another section may not use. So the whole concept of flexibility and giving comfort to employees' needs. What we realize is making relaxing our policies, conditions, and so that everybody have an opportunity to take a break, or take a enjoy their time with their family, or near and dear. So that's what we realized. So we did not call it as anything as a menstrual leave, but we accommodated all kinds of needs in the existing policy, so that people will have an option wherever, whatever reason they want, they can have a type of leave.
So is it somewhat like the restricted holiday list that typically we have, and you can take a select number? Your number of leaves are fixed, but you kind of choose what leaves you want to take among them.
Not exactly. So we have a option for the festival holidays. We have an option. So that is not that is by the employee they can choose. But this one, what I'm meaning is we have a sick leave, we have a casual leave, or we have a annual leave, and apart from that, we have other several types of leave. What I mentioned is leave, leave for moments that matter. No, such types are there, and what we made is that annual leave is one which will cater to all sorts of needs. Either it could be a vacation, or it could be a individual need, and things like that. And certain things may also fall in the sick leave type. So what we emphasize here is the deliverables are not are met as long as the employee is able to perform and meet the deliverables. Using leave and using type of leave is become less important. That's what I realize. More emphasis, or more consciousness have come up with the employee that the deliverables are important, whether it is from working from home or in the office. And as long as we do all of that, this leave and things like that will become less important and easiest.
Excellent. Sharmila, Pooja, anything?
Yeah. So, just to add to what Robert said, I think increasingly as we see it, I think the best model would be to create X number of leaves that you would be designing for the organization and let employee choose in what order they want to use. But if we were to classify and assign, it will become very prescriptive, right? So hence, we are somewhere in our mind thinking, creating the number of leaves that you want to have and allow employees, just the way you're creating a flexible work arrangement, we should have a bouquet of leave types and give flexible to the employees to make a choice under what condition do they want to use. They can use whatever the condition be, and this condition need not be known to the organization. You just want to take leave. Now the purpose can be anything, right? So I think that would be that's a desirable model. I truly believe that model would complement the flexible work arrangement. This particular leave is quite much talked about. I'm sure many of you know that Swiggy was the first company who introduced the menstruation time, primarily because they have a field workers. If you have a women delivering the orders, and then it will impact, it may interfere with their mobility and things like that. That would probably the condition, but may not be relevant for every type of organization. But however, having said that, in a given flexible work arrangement model, having to have a flexible leave types would be a good response, as I would imagine.
So yeah, kind of second to that. So I think more and more organizations are moving into a flexi benefits kind of a model. So within flexi benefits, flexible leave is also an option. So rather than creating different leaves and and limiting people to using kind of limiting people to use those particular leave. Flexi model is somewhere that we are also kind of evaluating and thinking of right now. So that would be my answer to Kanika's question.
Excellent. Thank you. And I think the next question also from Jay is somewhat related, and it can spur a big debate. So we don't want to get into that, but quick 30-second answer on this. Do you intend to have a custom policy for permanent work from home employees versus hybrid work from home employees? I mean, do you see a distinct leave structure coming for these two categories of workers? Have you thought about it? A yes or a no?
Maybe no, we are not differentiating both, because whether it is work from home or in the office, it is work is deliverable. As long as deliverables are there, so that's not a difference. So we are not thinking of creating custom leave for work from home and then hybrid work employees. Definitely no. And to accommodate both their needs, we made more flexibility. That's what all revolves around that. So either I work from home, I have a freedom to use my leave. At the same time, when I work from the office, I also adjust my timing accordingly, so that I can manage both work and personal needs.
So no here as well. I mean, even we are not thinking of creating any differentiation between the two kind of workforce. I think it's it's not warranted as well, because then kind of we'll be kind of pushing people into categories which we don't want.
Right. Okay. Okay, so moving on to the next question, right? I mean, this is for Pooja, for you. You have very interesting leaves, right? You have a sabbatical leave, right? Which you provide up to 2 years of structured channel to address your aspirations if you want to pursue higher studies, or take part in some volunteering activity, right? And also you've got a 6 month kind of a break for work, to pursue hobbies, passion, community service. So can you talk about this? Can you give us a little bit more detail about this break for work and how have employees really utilize this versus the 2 year sabbatical policy that you have? How do you see people using this?
Right. Yeah, so break from work is a very interesting concept. So here we say, so traditionally what we've seen is that sabbatical is used for higher studies or in our case, sabbatical can be used for volunteering work. But break from work, I would like to call it as, allowing people to kind of take some time off without any without any excuse. So here, this is what I mean. This type of leave is exactly, what it says. Taking a break from work without the stigma that people, kind of put, of having a tag of break in their CV. So this particular leave can be used for anything, right? It can be used for your self development. It can be used, for taking care of your elderly. It can be used for, even for travel, right? So basically anything that you want to, you just want to, take a break from work and do something for your own. So this is the whole concept of break from work. In fact, break from work can also, be used in case you are kind of transitioning, or like have done some kind of a gender reassignment surgery, and you want to take some time off to kind of recuperate from that. So from a lens of DNA, I think this is a very strong message that we want to put to people, that Wipro kind of recognizes and kind of appreciates transitioning employees, and we are giving this kind of a leave to people. And not only leave, we have got other certain kind of medical benefits as well, when it comes to some kind of monetary benefits, when it comes to insurance policy or OPD benefits. These benefits are there for for basically for transitioning people. So this is the whole concept of break from work. And people have been using it because, again, if I see this from the light of pandemic, right, I mean, people have, the constant, feedback that we hear from people is that, people feel very stuck, staying at home and taking care of people, taking care of the family, taking care of children. I mean, suddenly children are not going to school. People are expected to take care of children's studies as well. And all the while, having to, be a superstar at work. So all these, I think, lead people to kind of feel a kind of fatigue that we have not seen before. So this kind of leave, really empowers people to kind of take a break, get recharged, and then come back. So this particular break can be taken for a for a period of 6 months, once every 5 years. So this is the whole policy construct.
Okay, and do you see any specifics around, say, the adoption part? Is it, say, below 30, you see more adoption? Do you see that from 30 to 40, 45, middle-aged people taking that break option? I mean, do you see any analytics on this?
So right now, like I said, it's been quite recent that we,
Okay.
introduced this policy. But the point is that, we have seen adoption across these various buckets, and more so, I think, because the whole, 2 years was all about COVID. So we can see a variety of reasons, why people have been taking up this particular break.
Sure. Thank you. Anything similar that Ford and Micron may have something in these lines?
Yeah,
So we had, sorry, yeah. So we had, we discussed and we kind of soft introduced as a pet adoption. So we saw in the last 2 years, a lot of people adopted pets, not just limited to adoption otherwise. So which essentially means that you need, when you're adopting, you go through the similar process what you would do otherwise for adoption. So pet adoption is what we introduced, giving 4 days time for the team member to be able to spend some time with the new pet and settling them and things like that. So that was something that we kind of soft launched in our site to make it a little bit more inclusive of the requirements. So just thought I'll share that with you, Achyuta. Yeah.
I think, Robert, you also have something on those lines, right? You have an enhanced sabbatical leave at Ford. Would you like to talk about it?
Yes. So from the first wave of COVID, it was a big learning, and we started seeing employees struggling to manage their work and family, and even employees themselves got infected. So we introduced a new concept of enhanced sabbatical leave, where employee can take leave either 1 month or up to maximum of 3 months with 25% salary. So this 25% salary is just a small help for employees when they are away to take care of their family or their own self. This will help them to manage their recurring expenses they get. So this will reduce the amount of pressure for any individual when they are difficult to manage their family, this also not become another difficulty. So we made that as a policy. Initially, it was started for COVID purpose, but after that, we enlarged that for any kind of individual care or family care kind of needs. This leave can be used, and we made it as a permanent one. So this was when we launched that initially, we were not very confident that we will get a lot of response, or that will really serve the purpose for employees. A lot of resistance was there when we launched it, but some gut feeling, we went ahead and launched it. We thought even if one employee is using, that is worth giving that benefit. So for our surprise, immediately after we launched, there was several people started using, and then COVID too become a major issue, and that was really helped every individual to manage that, because when the whole family is not able to manage, it is really difficult for employees. So we realized that and after launching and after expanding that facility, employees personally came and appreciated the team for their decision. It was one of the best thing I would say we did for employees. So much response, so much appreciation for that leave from employees.
And how many people would have taken that leave, this enhanced sabbatical up till now? I mean, is it a
Yeah,
substantial
roughly
number?
about. Yeah, yeah. It's a not a substantial number, I wouldn't say, because no, it is only for the needy people. Roughly about
Right.
50 people so far used it, and they really this really is really a help in time. Not only giving leave, it is 25% is an additional benefit. So they go worry free, managing the sickness and in their family members. So that was the success of the program. We thought.
You also have an auto approval of leave model, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's a very unique model, and it also alludes to the levels of trust that a manager has on employee and vice versa. Would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so this was was introduced sometime back, and so Ford is kind of becoming a matured team, and we realized that the amount of communication between the employee and the team leader or people leader is increasing, and there are good alignment on deliverables. And that made us to believe that the trust level between employee and the people leader is high. So we should not monitor, or or we should not make it as an approval point, or waiting point for any employee. So we removed that approval system, so employee can have a discussion, create get an alignment with the people leader, and go on leave, applying in the system. So this system approves automatically without waiting for the people leader to do that. So this is no, we thought one is that reflecting the trust level between the employee and the people leader, and it is not only it's a trust level, because the amount of accountability and responsibility employee shows on the job, and ensure their responsibility is delivered without any difficulty or without intervention from the people leader. So this is going successful now, and that not only that, it is also improves the relationship. So that's the beauty of that. As long as the systems are functioning very smooth, and we get this side benefits of improved relationship, improved understanding between the employee and the people leader. So we've been successfully managing that, and no, and also reduces bureaucracy. So that is another beauty of this. A lot of time approving in the system itself, managers can save, and we reduce that
Sure.
bureaucracy in the system.
Sure. Just now, typically people feel that startups are extremely creative in everything they do, including their leave policies. But frankly, what I heard from Ford, Wipro, and Micron today is that they have been very creative themselves. But do you see anything specific from your research around startups? Have they come up with some interesting categories? Over to you.
Yes. Yeah. Like you rightly said, it's so refreshing to hear large companies like Ford, Micron, and Wipro also doing some outstandingly innovative things in designing their leave policies. Startups, yes, some of them are extremely innovative in their people practices. What we have seen are two divergent perspectives. One where the startup leaders are saying that we don't have the luxury of looking at DNI and all that. We have a business to run. We have to focus on building it. And another where the leaders are saying that we need to have talent, and that a diverse set of people bring different talents that we need for the company. So we will definitely look at their diverse needs. So these were two very divergent views that we saw and heard. Then the startups have the advantage of starting afresh, right? There's no legacy, there's no encumbrances or any such issue. Another advantage is, of course, being smaller in terms of headcount itself. They can easily build very close relationships with their employees, and they can constantly keep polling them for what their needs are. And needs are dynamic, like one of the panelists also mentioned. So they could quickly, probably implement new practices in a fairly agile manner. And the other thing is, by nature, millennials are more open in seeking thoughts and maybe crowdsourcing ideas. For example, recently somebody directed me, my colleague directed me to a tweet where someone was asking what kind of leave policies would be appreciated. And there were some very, very interesting ones. Like I mentioned earlier, also leave per se will probably be only so important, but what supports their, their lifestyle, their different requirements during different situations. That is what was the crux of the discussion. So we saw not so much focus on long leave per se from work, but on short breaks, like no device time zones, no meeting hours, or no meeting days. One asynchronous week every quarter. I really like that one. And 2 weeks at office for everyone in the company, considering that we're all moving or we're already there in a hybrid work environment. And once a month social where everybody gets together and things like that. So some said also what Ford is already practicing in terms of not requiring pre-approval. That would be a good way to go. And of course, some had on their wish list menstrual leave. And that's a whole other discussion, right? Because some do feel that it's regressive, and some may feel that it's all about allowing your policies to be flexible based on the employee need. And Sharmila alluded to that very nicely, that being prescriptive is not going to be the norm going forward. And then, of course, long leave for things like pursuing your own interests, which Wipro has, that Pooja spoke about, taking time off, say, to go as a trek instructor for 3 months in a year. Not every year, of course, but whatever is the period, during the period. Teach math to school kids, maybe, or to start a hobby, or maybe even to have your own startup. So things like this came up in that conversation, and that was very interesting, I thought. But I feel also that all these different kinds of needs that employees have for different types of leave, or the same kind of leave that take for different reasons. What is much required will be to build that trusting employee employer relationship. That be the basis to get into these sort of very, very flexible sort of leave policies, is our take.
Thank you, Jyothsna. My last question, given that we are almost out of time, to all speakers, you've made some very employee-centric changes to your leave policy, whether it is to be inclusive or whether it is allowing your employees the time and space given the vagaries of working from home. So what are you hearing from your employees on these changes? What are some visible impact of these changes? I know Pooja alluded to a better employee experience, but is there something more you could share on how are employees taking these activities, these policy changes that you guys are doing?
Yeah, if I can add, Achyut, so attention of the team members is not really towards the leave. I would say that, but what are they looking to have is how organization is creating an environment when they are in office. All right. I think this sense of celebration, and I'm seeing wellness as the most emerging topic. Which we will see more of that because in the last 2 years they figured that the aspect of wellness has become far more pronounced than what it was in the past, right? So wellness celebration, the element of celebration, bringing the teams together is will be quite pivotal, and that should be taken into consideration when we create some of our leave policies, other programs, and structure. In order to support that, we are actually celebrating Wellness Week, which is in the week of 9th. The entire full week, we will be celebrating wellness across Micron and allowing the different regions to promote the idea of wellness by celebrating together, creating many opportunities on a single day, creating culture of appreciation. I think by going 100% remote and this evolving, what we have lost is the culture of the organization, which is just so disintegrated, right? Where people are working from homes or different places. So culture has, you're not experiencing the organization by coming to the physical environment, right? So the culture has taken a big beating in the last, because of this remote model. I think some of our policies and programs must include that aspect. How do I bring the culture back through these policies, through these programs? Bring in some more celebration, give more flexibility to the team members to decide what type of leave, and we should not be asking why you want this leave, but I want this type of leave because everybody will have a unique requirement. Allow people to take leave to meet the requirement, no questions asked, and I think that's where I believe we would eventually go to, and that's the good place to be in.
Yeah. So, just a point here is basically, I think leave alone. We should not be looking at just leave alone. So when we're talking about hybrid working place, right? So, I think the whole gamut of offerings that we give under the banner of benefits, I think that is what we should be looking at. Whether like how Shamila talked about wellness. So whether it is wellness or it can be about leave or it can be about any other benefit offering that you're giving us. That I think on a holistic level, brings about a differentiator or kind of brings about a value proposition, and I think that is continue to that will be continuing to be the focus point. The only difference here is basically we'll have to kind of relook at it through the lens of hybrid work, hybrid work environment. I think that is the challenge, going forward for companies.
Sure. Robert?
Yeah, just to add to that one, our culture aspiration is care for each other. So this is all across our policies also reflected. And the leave policy is one thing we really emphasize this by allowing flexibility and freedom to employee for their choices, their needs. We provide policy. So our policies allows that flexibility and freedom for employee. When employees get what they need, we believe that there is a obviously there is a care for each other. You know Happens. So with that, we think it is not a directly linked with any performance or any kind of metrics. It is more creating environment where each other take care of themselves and others. So that really is a culture aspiration, and we drive towards that.
Thank you. There's another interesting question to end this from the audience. Kanika says, what's the number of leaves that we want to give in a particular year? and how many leaves categories exist. But is there any agreement, consensus, on number of leaves? Because typically, I think we've seen a lot of variety, right? I mean, most organizations they've looked at, say, 2 days a month kind of system, so 20 24 leaves per year, and some organizations have gone beyond. I've been in Ford, and I know Ford has a longer period for vacations and all, holidays and all. But do you believe that there is a fixed number of leaves that you want to give to each employee?
Minimum is the statutory requirement. So in Tamil Nadu, it is 36 days all put together. So anything we give more than that is obviously is a good thing, I would say. And Ford has really flexible and enormous or generous leave for the employee need, and now really if you have to talk about does it matter for me, it is not, because as long as my work is done, the rest of the time is free. I'm free, I can do anything I want. So but at an organization level, we have certain guidelines and things like that, so that there is we are not going one side too far. So minimum is 36, and we give more than that. And also we meet different occasions with different needs and different requirements addition to that.
Sure. Pooja, Shamina?
So I think leave is a concept. I mean, leave is a concept, right? It is never enough for people who exhaust it, and for somebody who doesn't, kind of utilize it, it just stays and kind of lapses. So I don't think there's a right answer. The what should be the fixed number of leaves that we should be giving. In a particular year, but rather, like I mentioned before, leave should be, we should really be looking at flexibility of leave in terms of types, in terms of who can use it and how many times a particular person can use it. I think that is that is where I see the future right now. The flexibility is the key word.
Sure. Okay, so I think we've come to the end of an extremely insightful session. I personally learned a lot, and I would like to reiterate that we are in an extremely fluid situation. So whatever changes we have seen in the last couple of years, I'm sure we'll see more, right? As organizations figure out future work models and what strategies to put in place for heightened employee centricity. I think discussions like this and the research report that has been launched by Parity earlier today actually help bring out the current best practices around leave policies, which help other companies also to shape their policies and also point to future directions in this space. On behalf of Senascom Insights, I take the opportunity to thank you, Pooja, Sharmila, Robert, Jyothsna, for a very engaging discussion. I look forward to more such discussions in this rapidly evolving and fascinating space. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Achyut. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank